never should have made. And most owners are operating at anywhere from 400 to maybe even $1,000 an hour in decision value. And if you're spending 2 hours a day solving issues someone else could have solved, that's not leadership. That's leakage. This is not just time, it's strategic capacity. Let me ask you this, and please feel free to drop your answers in the chat. How many interruptions, just think about it. How many interruptions did you have yesterday? If you can put a number on it, how many interruptions, how many times were you interrupted by a staff member? And it didn't matter who they were in your business, in your law firm, whatever business you own, how many times were you actually interrupted yesterday? What numbers am I seeing in the chat? If you're brave enough to come off mute and tell me yourself, great.
15.
15 times you were interrupted by a staff member.
At least 15.
Goodness. Wow. That is a lot of times to be interrupted. And think about the time that you wasted and lost just by answering those 15 questions. Now let's talk about something a little more dangerous. Decision fatigue. When your brain is forced to make constant lower level operational decisions, it becomes depleted. And when you're depleted, guess what happens? You delay bigger decisions. Most times we avoid strategic thinking and we naturally default to the safe choices instead of making the bold moves the business may benefit from. The real cost isn't in the small decisions. It's the quality drop in the big ones. Think about this. Have you ever ended your day exhausted and then having to think because you're really unsure of what you actually accomplished? You can say yes, you can raise your hand. Does any of this sound familiar to you? How are we thinking about as owners of being more profitable when we have so many interruptions by people we've hired to solve our business issues? And if we're thinking about profitability, great as owners, but know that I think of them as rules to profitability. And I think of it as an acronym. The R, the U, the L, the E, and the S. With R standing for rates. Are your rates high enough to receive the gross profits enough for the business to be profitable? U being utilization. Is your team fully utilized to their capacity? And not just the physical capacity, not just the workload, but the mental capacity. The L standing for leverage. Do we and are we delegating down to the lowest cost person capable of doing the job? E, that lovely word, expenses. What are we thinking of when we think of the costs of actually developing the goods that we're selling in our menu of services? There are variable costs and there are static costs. Dynamic versus static. And then the S, the speed of how we get our money, because we're in business to make money. Our accounts receivables, the collection rates. For our law firm owners, the evergreen trust accounts. Do we bill twice a month? Do we stop working when clients have not paid? Do we offer payment plans or even subscription models? our stock keeping unit numbers. What does it cost us to actually run and operate our business? But today I'd like to focus on the U in the rules of profitability because it speaks directly to how we can benefit and begin to shift not just the workload or their perceived workload of our staff, but how they think about the problem solving, which can in turn increase productivity and leverage capacity. Remember, bringing a problem without a solution is incomplete work. So, how do we change it? How do we change the dynamic of problem finders into solution finders? It all starts with training your staff. What you tolerate, you also train by your actions or inaction. You're showing your staff what's acceptable in your business. Let me give you the scenario. Your team comes to you and says, "We're double booked tomorrow." Drop in the chat, what's your fix for that issue? What's your fix or good enough for right now for that problem of being double booked? What's a simple fix? And what's an even better long-term solution?
Joanne said, "What does that have to do with me?"
That's the response. What does that have to do with me? The fact that we're double booked, the fact that we're double booked has a lot to do with an owner that says something failed in the system. Something failed in training the person who books clients, consultations. Something failed. So it has everything to do with the owner. Something failed. And know that there is a difference between a fix and a solution. Fabio, if you can, drop in the chat the fix solution handout.
Yep. David, I think Joanna has a question.
Yes. What's your question, Joanna?
What does it have to do with me? I guess that, yeah, problems and training and ultimately everything funnels up, but I don't see why a double booking would come to me to fix.
Exactly. If you had staff that was in charge of booking, it shouldn't have come to you. That's the point. It should not have come to you. So there is a way to get your staff to be able to think for themselves
Yeah,
and
that part.
not having to come to you for the answers. Great question. Thanks, Joanna. If you've downloaded the fix versus solutions handout,
The handouts are now in the chat if anyone wants to go ahead and download them.
We start by rewiring your expectations as owners. We can start by saying from now on, you'll bring me problems with at least one possible solution and why you recommend it. Because around here, we don't just identify problems anymore. We solve them. And then own it in your language. I realize I haven't done a great job of empowering you to solve problems. So from now on, if you want to earn trust and influence and gain more responsibility, you've got to become a solution finder. And then we teach them the 3-option rule. When they spot a problem, don't just drop it in your lap like a hot potato. Okay, we're overbooked. So I get why you, Joanna, would say, what does that have to do with me? This is your job. This is why I hired you. Teach them that they have to come, one, with a fix for now, something that they are prepared to do, not you. 2, what's the best long-term solution so this problem never happens again that they would like to implement? And then provide their recommendation. And then you can, even if when you start to adapt this policy and you adapt this strategy in your business, you can even use this framework of the handout. What is a fix? Give an example. What is a solution? And then provide an example so they know the difference between the two. And then after they've demonstrated their understanding between a fix and a solution, then we as the business owner begin to rewire our own expectations and the expectations of what the employee will be able to bring to us. So what's the difference between a solution finder and a problem finder? Fabio, can you drop the next handout in the chat?
Yes, it is already dropped. Solution
Okay.
finder mindset. Yeah.
There's a question from Melissa Berry.
Yes,
Melissa, do
what's
you
the
want to
question, Melissa?
unmute?
Yes, I was just curious if you have any recommendations on how to train people for this. I feel like this wouldn't be just an email you send. This would be something to sit down and maybe take a few problems and help them work through figuring it out. But I just like, I feel like if we're sitting there as a group helping, is that undoing what we're trying to teach them, or is that a
Is that a
like, I mean, like, what's the best way to teach this to your staff or to train them to do this when they haven't ever done it a day in their life ever? I said that with a smile, by the way, my camera's not on.
No worries. Melissa, it's almost as if you were in my presentation already. How do I do it? How do I actually implement this? What do I do? What do I say? We start by setting clear expectations. In order to implement this strategy effectively, it's a best practice to make sure that the expectations are clear from the beginning. Remember, tolerating problem finders is training your staff to just bring you more problems. When we institute the 3-option rule of what's the fix for now, what's the best long-term solution, and what's their recommendation, and even better, their plan to address the issue that hopefully doesn't involve you having to step in. And then involve more people if you need to. If this is someone that reports to a supervisor, or if this is someone that reports to a manager, involve them. That way it comes off of you as the owner. Then we learn how to coach in the moment. In the beginning, we can say things like, hey, thank you so much for bringing this to my attention. Let's talk this through. And then you ask the right questions. Ask what their thought process is. And then after you've done it for a while and you've practiced it a little bit, because if it's not innate, it will take practice. And once you've done that, use those empowering statements to assist them in their own growth. Whereas, again, they're moving away from, maybe slowly but surely, coming to you with those issues. And then invite them to return to you with the solution, not just the problem. And then reward them. The people that adapted first, reward them openly, transparently. And then model the behavior you want to see in your business. When you see the issues, use this same framework. And you can think it through out loud. You can say, what is the situation? What am I considering? And what would be my recommendation to staff? And then you leave the space for the team to confirm what they understand. That's where we find the most brokenness in our systems, in our policies, is because we give policies out and we expect them to be able to relate to what we've stated to them, but we don't leave the space for them to provide whether they understood anything we said or not. And then we reinforce it over and over and over again. And then I hear questions like even the one Melissa asked, but not just how do we do it and how do we implement it, but we may have other questions. But what if the fix or solution they choose is wrong? Then we debrief. We don't punish. We all as adults learn differently, right? So then if the decision is small, let them own it. If it works, great. But if the decision is and the risk is too large, then they learn to escalate, but with options. They don't just come to you with one problem and one solution and one recommendation. They learn over time. This is not something that just be dropped in a to-do list and then they go on and automatically do it. But what if the staff member is new? If the staff member is new employees, of course, they get a little grace and we offer them some guardrails. But they don't get exemptions. They're not exempt from the actual process of learning this new style and new behavior, right? And here's where you can modify it a little bit slightly to present you as the owner a teaching moment. This could be a great coachable moment where you can present one possible solution and one possible recommendation. And then you can say, listen, ownership is not just for senior leadership. It's a cultural standard. It's what I'm trying to build in this business. And then, what if they just picked a bad solution? Great. Why do I say great? Because this means they're actually thinking. And that's what we want them to do. Those people you can coach. You can coach it, but you don't confiscate or even take back ownership of the issue. Then you can say things like, I like that you're thinking through this. Let's refine it. And I'll add that the cost of a mediocre solution is far lower than the cost of a dependent team. Now, what's the return on investment? Businesses that implement this particular strategy typically, on average, regain about 5 to 10 executive hours per week. Now, if we're operating at $500 an hour in decision value, that's $2,500 to $5,000 per week in reclaimed capacity. Remember, we didn't start this business to pay for problems. We invest our time and our resources, one of them being our people, to ensure that we get an adequate return on our investment. Now, starting tomorrow, do me a favor. When someone brings you a problem without a solution, your only response, real simple, what do you recommend? And then listen. It may take some time because they won't expect it, especially if you're used to jumping in and solving it. So if you just respond, what do you recommend? Now, if your employees are bringing you problems without solutions, remember, it's because you've trained them to. Own it. But then you can start with using the suggested language that I provided in the handouts, and also model the behavior you'd like to see in your business. Your employees are always watching you, whether they tell you or not. And whatever they see should be worth viewing. Implementing this strategy is designed to increase productivity for the team as well as give you more executive hours to make decisions as only owners can make. And again, consider the cost of not doing it. I'll say it again because it bears repeating. Remember, what you tolerate, even if it's indirectly, you are still training your staff as to what's acceptable behavior in your business, which will eventually translate to your clients or your customers. Last question. What's one place in your business where you're tolerating incomplete work? Drop it in the chat, or if you're feeling brave, come off mute and tell me. One place, if you think about it, where you're tolerating incomplete work.
So David, I'm brave enough to like come off of mute here.
Okay.
And I just will throw out there that if I'm having trouble thinking about where I'm tolerating incomplete work and thinking that I don't have any, that's obviously not a good sign. So where's the first place to look for incomplete work?
What kind of business do you have?
A law firm.
Okay, you have a law firm. How many employees do you have?
11.
11. What's
Yes.
if you don't, do you know your average case value?
Yes.
You don't have to say it if you don't want to. In your 11-person firm, when was the last time you hired?
I take it back. We're now up to 13. So about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago,
Okay. What position did you hire for?
paralegal.
Paralegal. Why'd you hire that paralegal? What was happening in the firm that you felt you needed a paralegal?
We had just lost a paralegal. And we knew we had to replace at least one him. And since we're kind of on a upward trend, we decided to hire a second, figuring onboarding 2 is probably better than onboarding 1. And also figured that in case 1 doesn't work out, we still have the bandwidth, and work doesn't fall behind. That was the thinking.
Okay. Now, the paralegal that left, how long were they a part of the firm?
Approximately a year.
Okay. And why did they leave?
They actually went into the hospital, had a heart attack, and died.
Okay.
So it was a rather, actually, I don't want to say it was rather sudden. It opened actually a whole nother can of worms of the fact that we didn't have an emergency preparedness plan for that particular person because about 2 months went by before we finally got confirmation that they had went into the hospital and passed away. Different can of worms, but for about 2 months we were riding double. Two of the paralegals were catching up on his work. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Yeah.
guess what? You said it yourself. Did you catch it? I can call it out again, but I want to
No, no,
know
no. Yeah, no. Did I catch what specifically?
the incomplete work. You didn't have an
Um,
emergency preparedness plan.
yes, no, that we learned the hard way.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we're multi-continent, so we have now put one in place, which is a good thing.
that is a good thing.
And we had to consider the fact that since we were on multi-continents, that the same people couldn't be backups on the same continent for the other people who are on different continents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that was a little bit interesting, formulating that out and figuring it out.
And who in the firm is helping you work through this process? Now that I'm glad to hear that you have an emergency preparedness plan in place now. But
Yes.
who in your firm is now responsible, that is a part of their job description, to update the emergency preparedness plan to ensure that there is a plan for anyone that's ever out of any position that's ever away from the office for an extended period of time? Who in the firm is that?
Right now, it's one of the partner's executive assistants.
Okay. And she's responsible for knowing that for every position in the firm?
Yeah, we kind of tasked her to create the policy and tasked her to create the matrix. Obviously, after
Mhm.
realizing that we made sure
Didn't
that
have-
that was her role in her role.
Gotcha. That was a hard way to learn a great lesson. But what else did you learn from it? Yes, you learned that you need to have one, but what else did you learn from it?
Um, well, clearly there were some missing processes, systems and procedures in place to even recognize when that was happening. We didn't have a formal plan, but that seems to be obvious. We obviously the paralegal who was working on cases wasn't able to complete that work, so I guess there's incompletion there.
Mhm.
Um, I would imagine at bare minimum the paralegals who were left who had to absorb um, that caseload probably found either gaps in his work of potential incompleteness, which I'm not aware of,
Mhm.
or they created their own completeness by having to triage certain existing cases that they may have been handling as well.
Gotcha. So who is either, or do you have them? Do you have a case manager in your firm?
Not yet. No one that I think I could say that's their job description.
Okay.
Uh, we have um, senior attorneys who overview the completeness of not the completeness of their work because that's the topic, but who's, in contact with them daily, if not weekly.
Okay. Who is, do you have an ops manager, an internal COO, director of
Not
operations?
not internal. We have fractional. Um,
Okay.
um, and this person who is the executive assistant is probably the closest we have to office manager slash ops kind of person.
Ops adjacent.
Yeah, ops
Yeah.
adjacent, I guess. Not
Okay.
PLA
Right.
material.
Right.
Certainly not escalating or glorifying her role just because she does a lot of that stuff. I don't think she's that qualified. But yeah, she's pretty good. She keeps. I'm not exactly remembering the last part of your question, but she would be the one.
Okay. So for your fractional COO,
Yes.
I would go back to them and say, please share with me how to do and how to perform a policies, systems, and procedures audit. So they can walk you through all of the policies and procedures any law firm should have. I think you, given the particular situations that you've just mentioned, would find that very valuable. And
Yeah.
even if they don't walk you through it, the person that is closest to knowing where those policy systems and procedures are in your firm, they can walk them through it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest problem, not the biggest problem, but one thing we're trying to build in to almost every role is redundancy.
Mhm.
And that strikes me as the kind of role that would need to have built-in redundancy um, as well.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Thank you for answering.
You're absolutely welcome, Martin.
Thank you.
What
It
other
looked
questions do you have? Yes.
to say it looked like Gordon had a question or a comment.
Yes, sir.
Hello, that was a little while ago, but was that about when I said, "Oh, the cash projections"? Yeah, you asked where we're not quite structured, and I said, watching my cash flow for 90 days, the way I budget for the near future.
That's where you're tolerating incomplete work?
Well, when you say it like that, it doesn't sound great. But
Because
yes,
it's not, Gordon. It is not great. And I think we may have had this conversation before, or some resemblance of this type of conversation. And so when we take our eyes off the numbers, we are doing ourselves a disservice in so many ways. But one of the ways that we're doing ourselves a disservice that I'd like to highlight is that we are not able to make properly informed, data-driven decisions. If we don't keep our eyes on the numbers, how do we know what we can afford, when we can afford it, what we need to do to increase, to decrease? What do we need to let go of? What do we have more of than we need? Where are we losing money and productivity if we're not keeping our eyes on the numbers? And you said you took your numbers off for 90 days?
no, it's not that I stopped doing my numbers. We still do daily, weekly, and monthly numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's I've got my hands in multiple things at one time,
Mm-hmm.
and my plan is that they will. My dream is that they do well, and that then I double up. But in the meantime, I'm investing in multiple areas at one time.
Okay. So you said the plan is
I
that
just
they will
hired
do
three
well.
people in house. I just hired an
Okay.
HR person, 100 grand, two managing people, 100 grand, a CMO, 200 grand, and I'm trying to expand my business. It's just a
Okay.
lot at one time.
So you said HR person, CMO, and who was the third?
I hired two people to basically be my PLA. So that's 100 grand for each one. And then I hired a CMO and I hired an HR guy.
So you have two PLAs, someone in HR and someone in marketing.
The PLA and a PLA assistant, but yes.
Okay. Someone to assist the PLA.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. How large is your firm? What's your how many employees?
The year before we did 3 million. Last year we did 5. And
Okay.
this year our tentative numbers are 10, 9 or 10.
Okay. And you made that
So,
plan? You've done your
yes.
2026 business plan?
Not exactly.
Of course you haven't. Because these sounds like ewags to me. All day long. And this is why we don't encourage it. Knowing those numbers helps you plan out, and your profitability can be predictable. Because if you're just throwing money at problems because you see that there's a hole there, sometimes it is needed, but it is needed when we're able to make decisions based on real data.
The data said we were able to expand.
Okay.
And our experiences hiring the lawyers before the business gets there has a greater initial, cost me more money up front. The first 90 days can suck, but it makes for a much smoother transition into new areas of business, new cash flows. So we try new counties, and I have the case manager, the lawyer, and the intake before the business.
Okay. So if that be the case, when you are recruiting for attorneys, and this is something I would say to all of my members who are in the position for recruitment, for attorneys specifically. Great question to ask in the interview stage. What cases are you currently working on, and are you bringing them with you? That way, you have less of a ramp up, and you don't really experience that financial burn that
David,
you're speaking about initially.
my experience is different. I don't want their cases from another firm. Then I'm fighting over the money. I'm fighting over the way those clients have already been treated. I would rather I let them finish their cases. And obviously, I don't fight with them. If you've got 5 cases, you finish them, you keep the money, handle it. If you've got 30, I'm not going to hire you.
With another firm.
If you've got 30 cases that you can't walk away from, we're not a match. And I've had that happen. Oh, I'm going to finish these up in the next 90 days, and I'm going to do this. And I've been around the block. You can have 50 cases at another business, but if there's more than 5 of them you need to stay on, you're not going anywhere.
Were these solo owners, or were they part of another major practice?
I've seen both. But those are specifically solo owners. Those are solo people who think they've got to have their hands on everything, and they're not going to offer me the money to handle the cases. And quite frankly, I don't want them. I've just learned the clients are used to a different type of representation. The money may be different, and the lawyers don't want to share the wealth.
So, okay. With that in mind, and that mentality, what are you saying when you are looking for attorneys when you can't find any?
When I look for lawyers, I'm always looking for the ones with too much experience. That's what I look for first. And I try to look at whatever the base salary seems to be going around, and I add 10 or 20,000, which makes me worry about being positive cash flow and making it work. But I'm a firm believer, if you have the right quality people, you're giving yourself the best chance to shoot straight forward. So I will pay you 20,000 more than anybody else, and I will give you 90 days to see if we're on the right direction. And if we're on the right path, I'll give you another 90 days.
So you hire
I do that with marketing. I do that with lawyers. I do that with multiple jobs.
Wait, Just so I'm clear, and because I'm curious. So are you saying that you hire in 90-day increments?
No, no, that's the way my mindset works. No,
Okay.
no. That's me. No.
Okay.
I hire you
Okay.
full time. You're a full time employee, but
Okay.
I'm hitting you up. I don't quite have a perfect. Here's your job description. Here's what we need the first week, the first month, the first year. But I'm gonna, depending on your job, there's going to be a 30, 60, 90-day follow up. There's going to be a
Absolutely.
2 to 4 week onboarding system.
Yes.
As much as I'm ready to go, I'm not trying to throw you into anything. So, like, I've got some new lawyers who just started, and they have 0 cases right now, which scares me. But I told them if there's certain criminal cases you're not so comfortable with, go to those courthouses. Literally sit in the courtroom and learn the process, see what's going on. I can pay other lawyers to walk you through it. If lawyer 1 knows how to do it and lawyer 2 doesn't, go to court. Go sit there for an hour or 2. I'm paying. But go to court. I don't want you to find out where the courtroom is on the day of court.
Day of. Yeah. Okay.
Each courtroom's different. Even if it's the same criminal case, how they handle it, who you talk to, what you say in front of the judge, it's different.
It is.
And I don't want you to look like a newbie when you step in front of the judge. I want you to know the system.
So what are they doing in the meantime? Since they don't have cases, what are they doing every
Well, we
day?
onboard them. I mean, we teach them Clio, make sure they know how to track how to, file their paperwork on Clio, and every case has a case manager. So they've got to communicate with them and meet them. Hey, this is what I can do for you. This is what I'm here to help. If you need something else, you have to teach me, but I will help you. But I do have my own stuff to do as a case manager.
Mhm.
And we go through with them. What cases can you handle from beginning to end? What cases have you not done? Are there any cases you're not willing to do? Because again, I'm a criminal lawyer.
Yes.
And you can tell me you don't want to do rape, but if you tell me you don't want to do rape, murder, drugs, and guns, man, we're done.
And so do you find this out during the interview process, or you found this out
Normally,
walking?
no, normally it's through the interview process.
Okay.
But
That's what I want
but
to hear.
in onboarding, you do it again. You
Great.
do it more than once, because when somebody wants 100 grand a year, oh yeah, I'll do it. Oh, I'll do it. Well, when it starts, you got to drive wherever the work is. You got to do the work that we have. Like, you got to work with me. Even if you don't want to do a murder case, you might have to step up once or twice. You might have to help us in the process. And I have 0 murder cases right now, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. And Gordon, you just brought up a great point. Indirectly, but a great point. The onboarding process is an extended interview. So
Yes.
the longer it is, the better for you. Because anybody can put their best foot forward on day 1. It takes a pretty good actor to put up that same face and that same act 90 days later.
I mean, it changes the subject, but I can tell you all how I screwed up in it.
I believe everyone here wants to know how you screwed up in it.
We onboarded 3 lawyers at one time.
That's mistake number
yeah,
1. Keep
never
going.
going to do it again. Each
Mhm.
one's going to be completely separate days. My people did not talk to me about it, and they just tried to throw it all together. And then it blew up in my face. All of a sudden, one lawyer says, well, I don't want to do this kind of case. And, well, I don't want to do this one. And they think they're providing us with a list of cases that they're all agreeing on. And it doesn't work that way. I can have one person who doesn't want to do drug cases. I can't have 3. Somebody got to step in. So I told my team they've got to go back to each one separately, get it in writing that we're all on the same page, that we're handling criminal work. And if they don't, I'd rather give them $5,000 and have them walk away, because I can't wait until the case walks in the door and then you say, I'm just not comfortable doing a speeding ticket tomorrow. I can't have it. I do speeding tickets. I do traffic. Can't be beneath you.
Gordon, let me ask you this. You mentioned something that stuck out
Sure.
to me. And I don't want to negate anyone else that may be in the comment section or in the chat section. So I want to be very respectful. Let me ask you this one question because it stood out. Why do you believe your staff never mentioned it to you?
Because we don't have systems set up and we don't have a proper structure set up for doing it. We literally just pulled myself out of it without creating a how-to list to do it. And I see it clear as day, and I'm upset about it. And I'm like, I hire people to be independent and to step up, but not utilize 25 years of experience. Yeah. And I explained to them, while I want them in charge, yeah, they need to communicate we need to be on the same page. And we were not that day.
Do you have those policy systems and procedures in place now?
I have a new team of people whose job in the next 90 days is to oversee the creation of SOPs, standard operating procedures, because we've never had it. And that's a $5 million business without it, guys. And yes, that is one of the new jobs of my PLA and her assistant to begin the process in the next 90 days and to determine what our time frame is. Because they have not given that to me, and I have an issue with that. I need them on a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I need to know how many SOPs you do in a week, and 2 weeks, and a month.
And your PLA should be able to set that up for you. Your PLA should be able to develop a 30, 60, and 90-day plan.
If they can't, I hired the wrong person.
Absolutely. I'm glad you said it, and you didn't wait for me to. My in-house COO, I think, always hires people that may be a level lower than what we can do, but the people we've hired have the right mindset, and they're very smart, and they can do these jobs. But yeah, they have to have accountability, and they've got to show me. My CMO gave us a 1-week report. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. She gave me a 30, 60, 90. And I sent it to my CEO, and I go, dude, you need to pass this off to the new team, and they all need to copy this for their areas. That was yesterday. So we're on it. She wrote a 30, 60, 90-day synopsis of how she's going to do her job. They need to do the same thing for their jobs. They all come with experience. They all come with knowledge. Go ahead. Can I make a recommendation?
Please, as long as it isn't a haircut.
No. Who did you communicate that to?
Before we hired these 3 people, I had an in-house CEO. That is my brother. He's running the day-to-day. So when I say it, I'm referring to him. He's full-time.
Okay, gotcha. So your CEO should pass that plan, or that what you recommend from what the CMO provided to you, to your PLA, so they give the directive that it.
So they create their 30, 60, 90-day plan. Yes.
And it autonomizes their authority in your firm.
And accountability.
Absolutely.
I want to give them the tools to succeed, but yeah, I want them to come to me with, this is where we're at in a week, and this is what I want to work on, or this is what I want to do. I'm not ready in all areas for them to just jump in. I want to know that we're on the same page. But they have access to everything today.
Okay. So what would it look like if all of those staff members reported all of that information that you said you wanted to know to the PLA, and you only met with the PLA to discuss all of the rest of the staff?
Well, that's what I did this week. I didn't even meet with the PLA. I met with my brother, my CEO.
Okay. As long as you're not taking out the time and hours to meet with each person individually.
No, I don't want to, because then I don't mind. I don't think it sets up the right framework, and yes. I don't want to do a back and forth. I want them to say, I've got 5, 10, 20 years experience. This is what I'm going to do. And then they can come to me with, here are my next 3 ideas that need to be done right away.
Okay. I'm interested to see how that will work out. I know
Ask
we
me
will
in
be
90
seeing each
days.
other again. Yes.
Call me anytime, David. Love
I
to
know
talk.
we will be seeing each other again soon.
Hopefully next week.
And yes, I will see you next week in Chicago. We're there. Thank you so much, Gordon. I appreciate you.
I like talking to you, David, anytime.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
I
Again,
like
like I
somebody
said,
who says, Gordon, you're screwing up. Here's
because
how
we
to do
all
it better.
know,
I'm okay with
I
it.
will say exactly that. Fabio, were there any other questions or comments in the chat?
No.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. And remember, I am David L. Lester Massey with How to Manage a Small Law Firm. The world is shifting, and those who adapt and innovate will be the ones who lead the way. I will return you to your regularly scheduled networking event.
And Fabio is going to help put everyone into breakout rooms for some networking. For those of you who want to stay. Fabio?
Yes, I am assigning the breakout rooms now.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm going to have to head out. Bye-bye now.
Hi. Okay, Carla? Oh, we lose her? Okay, have a good night, everyone. Thank you.